Hello and welcome to Auto Shenanigans. How the devil are you? Have you had a good week? My name is John. Thank you very much for joining me for another exciting Great British Road Journey. This week I'm still in Shropshire. In the last episode we looked at how the county was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. How we'll top that this week is anyone's guess. I'm not sure that we will, but in any case today we'll be exploring more of this county on a journey that'll take us the long way round from Shrewsbury to Market Drayton. And as always, to help navigate our way around, we'll be using my 1923 Michelin guidebook, period correct maps, and is it Shrewsbury or Shrewsbury? Knows. But we're here, and in the days of my guidebook, it was a fairly busy place with over 30,000 residents. The town's growth initially came from the wool and textile industries, and in 1797, a flax mill was set up in the town. What is a flax mill? According to Wikipedia, flax mills are mills which process flax. Brilliant. Flax is a name given to linseed, a plant which is used within the textile industry to make linen. Flax is a term usually given to the unprocessed plants that would be turned into linen at mills like this. However, that's not the interesting part, because this mill, perhaps by accident, is considered as the world's first skyscraper. That's right, without this pokey old mill in Shrewsbury, buildings like the Empire State Building and the World Trade... never mind, wouldn't exist. Now I know what you're thinking, it's not much of a skyscraper, is it? And no, but in this case it's not about height as such, but more the construction method of the building. What we're looking at is the world's first iron-framed building, a building design and construction method that would go on to be the preferred option for building skyscraper structures the world over. Without this, we wouldn't have this. It really does seem like the county of Shropshire has built the world, doesn't it? Next, I thought we could drop some special packages into Shrewsbury Prison using my drone. Nah, not really. The prison closed in 2013 after 200 years of operation. Whilst what we can see today is a Victorian prison building, apparently it's built on top of the original Georgian prison, which is still accessible. In more modern times, and when the prison was open, it's said to have been one of the most overcrowded prisons in the country, with 178 places, yet somehow 320 inmates. The original prison building was built by a bloke called Thomas Telford, a Scottish engineer who built everything in Shropshire, and I thought we'd come and take a look at another one of his creations. Sure, we had to drive completely the wrong way to see it, but I think it'll be worth it. This is the Longdon upon Tern aqueduct, one of the first cast iron aqueducts to be built in 1796. If you watched last week's episode, you'll know that Shropshire was the birthplace of cast iron and structures made out of it. If you didn't, you do now. Shropshire is home to a lot of world firsts, but in the case of cast iron aqueducts, they missed out by a month to the Holmes Aqueduct in Derby. However, Longdon is considerably larger at 186 feet versus 44 feet. The aqueduct used to carry the Shropshire Canal over the River Tern, but ever since the canal's closure and abandonment in 1944, it's just sat here not being used, and I suppose today it's considered more of a tourist attraction. Good bridge, except it's an aqueduct. Well, that was lovely, but we're a bit of a way off of the route I intended to take, but editing, who cares? I'm now on the A5 heading towards our next destination. It follows the route of yesteryear until we reach the village of Nesscliffe, where in 2003 a bypass was constructed. We can avoid this and follow what used to be the A5 quite easily, which will take us straight through Nesscliffe, where we'll be stopping because I want to answer a question. Is there a cliff in Nesscliffe? Hell yeah, there is. Look at this. This used to be a quarry, a very old one, with materials dug out here very likely used in the construction of churches and castles. But what's more interesting is what's known as Kynaston or Kynaston's Cave, a cave dug into the rock face some 6 metres above the ground. Apparently it was once the hiding place of an infamous highwayman known as Humphrey Kynaston or Kynaston. With the A5 passing through the nearby village, there was no doubt a regular supply of customers to relieve of their possessions before sneaking off into the night and hiding out here. Next up, the town of, oh, for God's sake, Oswestry. I think it's Oswestry. I don't know, but in the days of my guidebook, it was a reasonably sized town with around 9,000 residents, and the town's reasonable size is mostly down to the railway industry, with the Cambrian Railway Company building a station in the town, relocating their HQ here, and then building a huge railway works. In 1923, it was all taken over by the Great Western Railway, who would carry on doing railway things for another 40 years, and then another company change occurred before it all closed in 1966. However, as of 1972, a Railway Preservation Society have been hard at work restoring the line and opening it to the public as a tourist attraction. Known as the Cambrian Heritage Railway, their first passenger services would run in 1987, and today in Oswestry they've got a 1.5 mile long track that runs from the town centre to their Western Wharf station to the south. My guidebook suggests that maybe we'd like to visit Whittington Castle, a castle in Whittington found a short distance from Oswestry. It was built in the 1200s and, like many castles, it was owned by several people we've never heard of before being left in a state of ruin by the 1700s. The gatehouse out front was actually restored properly in 1808 and was in use as a house until the 1990s. Unfortunately, the rest of the castle hasn't enjoyed such treatment. An interesting feature of the castle is this random mound situated within the grounds. It was built to serve as a viewing platform, and it's believed that in the castle's heyday it would have been surrounded by moats and beautiful water gardens. This would have been a place where the owners could have come and appreciated their lovely castle. Not so much today, though. Our next destination is the town of Whitchurch, and to get there we'll be using the A495, which is mostly the same as it's always been. Interestingly, though, to get to where we need to go, we have to leave the country and pass through Wales for, thankfully, a short distance before re-entering England via the A525, which will deposit us into Whitchurch. An interesting town because it's believed to be the longest inhabited settlement in the county, with somebody choosing to live here since the year 3000 BC. Within the town is an area and a street known as Chemistry, which is rather odd, but it takes its name apparently from an old oak acid factory that used to be situated here. What is oak acid? I've no idea, but it was used within the leather tanning industry. Whitchurch's biggest claim to fame is clock towers. Clockmakers J.B. Joyce would move into the town in 1790, although the company was founded 100 years earlier in 1690 in the nearby village of Cockshut. Try not to laugh. They made large mechanical clocks, the sort that you would find within a building or structure, and the company would remain within the Joyce family ownership until 1964, at which point it was taken over by an organisation who made electric clock motors, who of course did away with all of that old-fashioned mechanical nonsense. To the south of Whitchurch is where we find the Brown Moss Nature Reserve, and it's all of the sites. It's a nature reserve, a site of special scientific interest, a special area site of conservation, and a Ramsar site, R-A-M-S-A-R, whatever that is. And it's all because of the floating water plantain, one of the rarest plants in England. I was going to take the piss, but it turns out they take this plant very seriously. Even across Europe, great efforts are made to preserve this endangered species. That's about it for Whitchurch. I'm not really sure why we stopped, but oh well. I can only assume we're in the less interesting part of Shropshire because there doesn't seem to be much going on as we make our way to our final destination on a route along some unnumbered country roads and then the A41 and A53 for a bit. Which takes us into Market Drayton, a small town that claims to be the home of gingerbread, with several bakeries being set up in the town during the 1700s. But the most famous was Billington's, who had created the perfect yet secret recipe for gingerbread that by 1864 was being shipped all across the world to be enjoyed by everyone. There's been a few company changes over the years, but the brand Billington's gingerbread still survives to this day and still follows the original recipe, which apparently is now the oldest gingerbread recipe in the country. And there we are then, guys. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, there is of course a button specifically for that, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. That would be wicked sweet awesome. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever it is you get up to. My name's John. You've been watching Auto Shenanigans, and I'll see you guys next time for another exciting Great British Road Journey. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.